Hello. How's everyone doing today? I hope y'all are doing well. We are going to be doing some Subnautica today. I hope everything runs well. We will not be using my VTuber avatar today, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully everything should go well. Let's go. we are. You know what? No, we're gonna do the light. We're gonna do that. So let's see here. I think it should work. On. I think we'll have enough power to do all of it. So. Hi. There we are. So now I can just bounce back over here. And I end up back in my corner. Perfect. Alright, so we're going to be doing Subnautica. Let me just make sure that my graphics good. Okay. General, yes. Okay. Good. I think everything else looks good. Play. We're going to enter the game. I think last time I just made the prawn suit and the other thing. So I think what we're going to try to work on tonight is getting the stuff necessary to get to the depth needed. Also, I'll just quickly try to pull up a map. Okay. I'll just quickly look at a Subnautica map. That way I can actually figure out where I might have... Oh, this has... Where is all of these? Good. Alright. There we go. Perfect. Nope. Frick. Ah, there we go. Okay. Okay, so there's not much. Okay. Oh, okay. So that's... Okay, so you have to go through the Lost River, apparently, in order to get to the lava lake zones and stuff, the lower areas. Okay. Okay. Alright. Okay. I think I now know more or less where I should start trying to look for stuff. Oh, right. I also need to remember certain details. Okay. Right, that's Life Pod 3. I believe I have my sea moth in here. Do I have... No, I do not have the power cell charging station. Okay. Right. I think that's what I was going to build, but decided to withhold that for the time being. Okay. Let's see where that is. I would also probably want the... is there a solar charger? Or... Oh, I only have the drill arm for one. Okay. So I also need that. Okay, okay. I'm starting to remember where I need to go looking for stuff. Engine efficiency. Okay, so I could do the thermal reactor that needs kyanite. Fire suppression, probably a good idea. Decoy tube, really probably a good idea. Okay, where is the power cell generator? 2 rubies and an advanced wiring kit. And I'm going to need at least probably 3 or 4 of these. Because it appears like this thing drains power quickly, especially if it needs to charge like my Seamoth and stuff. And I leave lights on, so I need rubies and the stuff for an advanced wiring kit, which the advanced wiring kits are gold. I need a lot of gold, copper, and some table coral. Okay. Time capsule. This one. Life was possible, and other life forms to coexist. Communication, instead of aggression and fear, made them possible on this unknown planet I call Subnautica. For a future explorer that I may someday find this plan and call it home, remember to communicate and think before taking hostile action. I was in a state of wow the entire time on this planet I called home for the short while I was here. I will most likely miss the adventures and discovery I had here. Captain Amber. Disembarking planet. In 3, 2, 1, launch. That is one of those things that I'm going to be so excited to do, is get everything plainly built. Okay, so I need to figure out what I need, what I have, what is available to me. So I need some, okay. I have some copper. I knew I need some silver ore. I do need some copper. I believe I need some gold, at least 3 gold. I believe I need at least a bit of table coral. And I do need some rubies. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go try to get everything built. So what all can I make right now? I can make the standard wiring kit. I need a computer chip, which needs the table coral. So I need to go get some table coral. And reinforced dive suit, which requires synthetic fibers and the diamond. What are you? That's the high capacity. Okay. Okay. Enhanced survival. Okay. So that will allow me not to take as much damage then. Okay. So synthetic fibers and some diamonds. Synthetic fibers are benzene, which is just blood oil. So I can, and fiber mesh, which is just some creepvine samples. Okay. So I'll be able to make that as well. So I'm gonna go gather what I can. I need some table coral, so I'm first going to use that. That way I can go pick up some table coral. I need at the very least 2. I am wishing I had a light on me so I could actually see anything. But it'll be fine. Okay, perfect. 2 table coral. That'll be good enough. Okay, so now I just need to make a computer chip, the wiring kit, and I will have the advanced wiring kit necessary for the oh, where's my habitat builder? To interior, power cell charger, I'm going to build this in the bottom of the base. And we're going to need at least 2 of these. But at the very least, I need to start the power charging. So these require 300. That's going to take a while for this to charge. So I need to go pick up. Let's go remember to pick up some of the rest of the necessities. Really, no. Goodbye. Okay, so we need the 2 rubies. I will need the copper from this point. I need silver. Good. I need some more gold. I believe 3 gold will be necessary, and then I believe I just need the table coral, and I think I'll have everything I need to pick up a second one of these. Now, I will also probably need... yeah, I'm probably gonna need some other stuff as well. Right now, I think I'm running off of 1, which is not sufficient. So, right, I need a copper wire. Do I need another copper wire for that? No, I just need the wiring kit. And that. And then I will have the advanced wiring kit. Oh. Okay. Power cell charger. Good. Okay. And throw in another 2. Good. Insufficient power. Got it. Okay. I'm gonna have some problems now. I do want to... Right, I need 1 more diamond, and I need the stuff for synthetic fibers. Because then I'll be able to make my reinforced dive suit. And... I need to remember where the other drill arm might be. Was I here when I looked that up? No. Okay. Okay. So... Okay... Okay, that's really not a useful thing. It's the Blood Kelp Trench wreck that I need to go to next. Which, if I quickly look back at the map, it says it's isolated wreck, a very deep trench, southwest of the grassy plateaus. So where the frick is that? Let me look at the map again. I luckily have a map I can look at, so where the frick is this? Oh, the grassy plateau is the one that's right next to that. So okay, I think I know exactly where that is located then. And it says southwest of the grassy plateau. It says it's in a trench? The grassy plateau is fairly large. Where does it say it is? Located southwest of the grassy plateaus. Okay, I guess that's what I'm gonna have to go on. I do need some more food. Good. Alright. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unload my minerals. I'm probably gonna try to take my Seamoth, though I'll probably try to get the batteries at least. Because the grassy plateau is just right about in front of me, so southwest is that direction. So I just basically have to go southwest from where I am now.
Welcome aboard, Captain. All systems online.
What's our power like? Pretty much no batteries. What do we got here? 64% power right now. Here's our upgrades. Okay. So far, it's looking all right. I do want to quickly drop down, though. Oh, wait. Let me just double check my upgrades on my Seamoth. So I do have the depth 3. So I'm gonna make my way about 900 meters deep. I'm probably gonna take the Seamoth. But yeah, I want to. I'm gonna have to try to find my way where I need to be. Because I checked the other ones, and if I'm right, I've already checked the Grand Reef wreck. Yeah, I believe I've been to that one before. Either way, I'm gonna go try to remember which ones I've been to, try to get one more drill arm fragment.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Perfect. Access the power cells, take these 2 out, throw in the next 2. Good. A beacon, I will just... Perfect. We now have a beacon. Edit beacon name. We'll just call this, I'm currently at capitals, shallow home. Home. There we go. Now, this basically known as shallow home. I want to get these batteries. How quickly are they charging? Relatively quick. Alright. for the most part. I also want to make sure that I come over here, pick up my batteries. On the important things like my light. And the laser cutter. There we go. Replace the battery. Access this battery charger. Chuck in the two lower batteries. Good. And this should be just about done. Once this is finished, then we'll take these. I should have 4 out of all of my batteries. Perfect. All right. So, yeah, I think what we're going to do is... I don't think I'm going to take this, but I'm going to go place the batteries back in here. Then we're going to take the Seamoth out for a drive, and I think it'll be good. Good. I think the power system thing is there. Good. Yep, that's perfect. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop down, be released. I believe it is the Blood Kelp Trench that I need to go to. Right? With the drill. Blood Kelp Trench, southwest of the grassy plateaus. So, somewhere in the trench, I believe I've found the Blood Kelp Trench before, and somewhere in that trench is a crash site that I need to visit. Yeah. That'll be the goal. I vaguely remember exactly where I'm going. More or less. And yeah, I think it'll be good. Right, southwest. I'm pretty sure I remember where I need to go, so... yeah, we're gonna go, hopefully, to this trench. I'm concerned because I'm afraid I'm not gonna end up in the right location. This is this bulbous zone. This is not the... not the trench I was looking for. Well, there doesn't seem to be any dangerous wildlife nearby. Okay. Let me verify the no dangerous wildlife. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything dangerous nearby, so what I'm gonna do is... I'm gonna park this. I'm gonna swim around, and I'm going to look for stuff. Oh! Apparently... bronze suit drill arm fragment. There it is. Perfect. Thermal plant, I don't believe I've gotten yet. There's the blueprint for the thermal. Oh, No, that's one of two. Okay. Good.
Need a blueprint.
Quartz. Good. This is just another drill arm. Yes. I believe I've gotten all the arms now, so... Oh, good. I can scan you. I'm just gonna kind of swim around looking for what I cannot scan. Is that another drill arm? That's another drill arm. Okay. More drill arm fragments. Okay. We're relatively okay here, so I'm going to maintain more or less status quo. Anything else down this way that I can scan? Nope. I don't know how much further I want to travel. What is this? That is a ruby. Okay. For the most part, this area is pretty secure, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go re-enter into my Seamoth, try to find my way inside of this wreckage, and apparently I found what I was looking for, so I'm pretty happy with that. The next trip will probably be... I don't know if I'm gonna want anything specifically. Let's see. Door will... I'm gonna find my way through here. Here. Okay. A little electrocutey. Nothing in there. Nothing I can scan. Okay. Let's see. Is there really nothing here? So far, nothing. Is this a... Nope, not a laser cut door. So is this it? Is this all that there is? It appears to be so. It looks like there could, in theory, be some more stuff off to the side, but... Like, that looks like some stuff, but... Let's see. Is there any other potential entrance besides the one that I've already gone into? There's just this. Is there a hole in the side? I mean, there's that hole, but that doesn't appear to be... Alright, there appears to be other spaces. Potentially. Let's see. Was that really it? I mean, yeah. There doesn't appear to be anything else. I mean, there's space for else, but I don't see a way in elsewhere. So, I think I'm good. I'm gonna go give it one more once over.
30 seconds.
I'm aware. We're gonna give it a once more once over. I do need to make sure that I have what I need for everything else, but the way it looks, I think it was only that piece remaining. Could have sworn there was other compartments needed, but that's scanner room fragment, but I already have that, I believe. These are thermal plant and scanner room fragments. Again, everything else I'm pretty sure I already possess. Okay, yeah. No sort of... Oh, there it is. There was somewhere else to go. I did miss a door. Okay. Okay. This might have some good stuff for me then. Okay. I was very glad I didn't ditch this area yet, because I would have felt really stupid had I done that. Oh, this is once again another sealed door. Okay. I'm concerned by these sealed doors. But the goal is more or less to try to get everything I need. Now I do need to find, I believe it's nickel. What are these? Grapple. I don't believe I have the grapple fragments yet. Nope. Perfect. I got the grapple fragments. Yay. Okay.
Blueprint acquired.
Anything else? Don't look it, and this looks to be the door that's blocked on both sides. This looks like a door that I could open, but it doesn't look like it's openable, so... And then this leads me out where... Oh, it leads me to a data pad and some more arms. Okay.
Integrating new PDA data.
Okay, and that's the area that I saw earlier where I could get that, but there's nothing else here, so I just need to quickly escape. Escape. Please escape. Through the door. Oh shit, I am... Come on, where's my exit? 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 Shit.
30 seconds.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Okay.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
One more trip in, and then I think I just need to go find where a lot of other resources can be found, which I believe are going to be in areas that I've explored but not deep enough. Okay, so through here, down through here, through this wall, apparently, what are you? Docking bay, repair module, okay, strike crate, nutrient bar. Okay, and then it's just a bunch of flap stuff that I can't get to. Okay. In theory, I believe that's the end of it. I don't believe that there's anything else. I will go double check. Nothing that looks like there's a, you know, a repair for. No. nothing I can see for repair. We'll make sure I get through all of this. Nothing repair, nothing repair. Nothing openable, nothing openable. And these are 2 fragments I already had. Okay. Ow. Okay. So I am good to leave. Time to head out. Alright. I do believe that it'll be just about the right time for me to exit then. Not that way. The exit is this way through the hole in the side of the door. Then the exit is up. Good. Okay. So, that was pretty useful. I got a couple more fragments out of this. I don't know if this was the trench, because it said a good depth. So, I'm gonna go continue heading in the rough southwest direction and keeping fairly low. Because, like, I don't think I've explored this zone before. At least it doesn't look familiar. Let's see. Some more rubies. Always good to pick them up. Okay. Uranium crystals. A good chunk of uranium. Shale outcrop. Perfect. These are really useful. Can I scan this? Let me scan the... What is this? Let me scan the Reginald. I want the Reginald. I'd also like to find a Reginald egg if I can. Okay. Lithium. Okay. Ruby. Lithium. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm gonna go make my way back to my ship. So far, so good. I am going to continue in the more or less southwestern direction. Let's see. I do want to probably look up where one specific thing is. What are you? You're thermal. I don't need thermal. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're starting to get kind of to the main of this zone. That's a warper. I'm just gonna move like I didn't see the fact that there's a warper there. What else? Okay. Oh, there's some geothermal. That could be good. Fucking warpers, warpers. Okay. There was at least 2 warpers that I don't really want to mess with. Them warping me out of my ship really can cause me some issues. And I got a decent amount of stuff that I would like to keep. So I am going to start my way home. Okay.
Seek fluid intake.
Alright, will do. I have no fluid on me. Okay. Ow. Okay, so there are a couple of these geothermals. Okay. I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make my way home. And I'm going to try to identify where I can get some materials that I need at this point. I have a rough idea on some of it. And that some of it can be a bit of an issue, but we'll see what I can do. Alright. So, yeah. I think I need a very specific problem set. I should be, without issue, able to create a... I should be able to create the drill arms and maybe a grapple. I will need to look up the stuff, though, for parts of stuff. There's gonna be a problem. Jump up. Don't hit anything, please. Okay. Alright. Alright, let's see what we can do here. Good. Alright.
Captain, all systems online.
So, now that I know what I need, I'm gonna go... Drill arm needs 5 titanium and 4 diamonds. Okay. The grapple requires the... Okay. So just advanced running kit and benzene. That should be fine. Those shouldn't be difficult to acquire. What else? Right. A repair tool and copper wire for the docking bay. Engine efficiency, heat.
Seek fluid intake immediately.
Okay, so that will require more benzene, so I'm gonna need a decent amount of the benzene stuff. The shield generator. Depth. I need plasteel for depth. Okay. Where is the modification? A Cyclops Mark II requires nickel, and the Mark III requires kainite. So I need both of those. And the bronze suit also requires the kainite. And the base one requires what? Only the Cyclops. Where is the... prawn depth needs nickel. Okay. So, where might I find nickel or, in this game? Because I do not remember. And I do not know where to go from here. It is exclusive to the Lost River. Okay. Oh god, I am really low on water. Okay. Alright, so I am going to quickly escape. But not first without checking how's my power doing. Okay. So power as it stands now is good. The inactive lava zone could be a problem. Or not that, but the Lost River could be a problem. I don't think it will be, but
Welcome
it could be a
aboard,
problem.
Vital signs stabilizing.
Let me take another water, and let me take some more food. Inventory's full. Good. I need to pick up one more watermelon. Marble melon. Okay. Locker. Chuck some in the locker back here. Good. Okay, so what would I want to make before I begin my next expedition? Moment, it's looking like probably the reinforced dive suit. So I need synthetic fibers and titanium. Synthetic is the benzene, so I need the blood oil and the fiber mesh, which is creep vine. That should be fairly easy to get. I just need titanium, and the other one was diamond, so I need 2 diamond. Good, diamond. So now I just need to go grab my blood oil, and some creep vine. That should be fine. Shouldn't be too difficult to get. I think I am going to, we'll go get the creep vine. Easy enough. It is, of course, night, though, which is always fun. Okay. That should be plenty, I believe, for the fiber mesh I'm going to require. And then I believe my blood oil is elsewhere, but I don't think I have 3 in... Nope, don't have enough space. Okay. You, resources, you, make me a fiber mesh, or... Ooh. Good. That'll be enough. 2 fiber meshes. I then need to go pick up 3 blood oil, which I believe is in the ore next to my main pod. Good. Okay. And I need to go through the other area. I'm gonna need to go through the Lost River. Blood oil. I'll take all my blood oil. Okay. So I'll be able to make the one thing. I'll be able to make the reinforced dive suit, which very useful. Being able to survive attacks, very useful. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll help me in any other capacity, but you advanced benzene. Now I should be able to make the... what else was I missing? Oh, right, the synthetic. Perfect. Synthetic fibers. Now capable of producing the reinforced dive suit. Good. Okay. Okay. So now take off the radiation set and put on the reinforced set. Good. These are the ultra glides, which is what I want. You need some space. Good. Okay. Alright. So I'll keep the propulsion gun. Let me dump the rest of this. Dump the creature egg. And I will keep the Reginald for now. Okay. I have a problem. I don't particularly know how to handle that problem right now. No. Boom. And we'll take you. Take another battery. Good. Okay. So, is there anything else I want to produce at the moment? It would be nice to have the prawn suit, drill, which 5 titanium, lithium, and 4 diamond. I believe I have that. 4 diamonds, 5 titanium, 1 lithium. Okay, where's my lithium? Do I really not have the titanium? Apparently not. And I don't believe I have any on the other thing, so we'll go check. Storage. Oh, I do have a lot of things. Good. So I'll be able to make the necessary components. Good. So, alright. So, I'll be able to make the drill arm. Grapple arm would be good too. But I think the grapple arm requires more benzene, which I just can't make. Because it requires blood oil. I can make the hydrochloric or the polyane, but I cannot make the benzene at the moment. I believe it is the construction thing over here. Okay, I can make the drill. The grapple arm, yeah, requires the benzene and an advanced wire kit. Propulsion cannon. The depth module requires the nickel. The thermal reactor requires kyanite. Crystalline sulfur. Now, where the frick do I get this crystalline sulfur from? Under the green brine. Okay. So that's something I can find under the green brine with the nickel. So for now, I would like the grapple arm. So I'm going to search to get the benzene, and then I need to make the other one, but we'll make this first. Good. Let's go do that. First off, good. Alright. So that's what you need. I need the other I think I'm gonna go search it out with the other stuff, but I'm gonna go empty my inventory first. Do what I can at least of emptying the inventory. Okay. I will take out the water. And then we throw what we can where we can. Perfect. Drink of water, eat a food brick. Not yet. Okay. Alright. And what I'll do is I'll just take these 2 power cells. And I think I'm going to take the Cyclops on a little trip. I believe I remember where things need to go, so
All systems online.
that'll be the fun one. We'll see if I do. 47, 100, 100. 100, 100, good. Perfect. So let's get going.
Engine powering up.
Bridge silent running.
Silent running.
91%, good. Okay. I don't want to head north. I want to head more or less due west. There's a pit about due west, I believe it is. Let me look at the map. Well, actually, no. The map's not going to help me. I'm just going to have to hope that I can find it again. I believe it's due west, where we have a area that just kind of just gets deeper. Okay. Yeah. The goal would more or less be to park you in a relatively safe position. Ow. Okay, I can go down to 500 meters, so I should be fine. Believe it's just past this area west. Believe. It could also be heading in the wrong direction, but I'm 90% certain I'm not. Okay. I didn't realize just how freaking energy hungry this thing is. Okay. 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 Uh-oh. Perfect. Okay. I found the border where I was trying to get to. Unfortunately, there's not guaranteed peacefulness. It's mostly peaceful. That's a fucking Reaper. That's gonna be a problem. Where was it? I could have sworn it was just due south. Like, almost directly due west. But I'm not certain no more. Oh, there it is. Found it. The crevice. There's pretty much no danger around here. What I'm gonna do is we're gonna turn off the engine.
Powering down.
Good. Below us. Perfect. Okay. We're rigged for silent running. We're gonna enter the Seamoth.
Welcome aboard, Captain. All systems online.
And then we're gonna go down because this is where the blood kelp is. And I need the blood kelp pieces. There's the blood kelp. Well, it is heavy. Gabe's feather. Did I scan you already? Apparently I don't need to scan you. Blood oil. Just fill the inventory up on blood oil. Oh, that's already inventory full. Okay. Well, then what I'm gonna do... What is that? That is gold. Okay. For the most part, we're fairly secure. What is this? That appears to be nothing. Okay. The blood oil is fully filling my inventory, so I can take even some of the mushrooms. Okay. Oh, there it is. The entrance to this zone doesn't have any dangerous creatures, so... Alright. for the most part, that's what's down this way. I'm gonna go get back up. I might do one trip. Well, actually, there's not really much here I need. That's the unfortunate reality of this. What do you... Ghost weed. Big, there's some uranium. Yeah. Fairly basic stuff, just nothing really crazy here. We'll go make my way back home. I'll go make what I need to make. And yeah. I should probably give the Seamoth the storage compartment soon, but yeah, not exactly worth it. I will probably give the Seamoth the storage soonish, but at the time being, the Seamoth does not need it. Good. Okay.
Captain, all systems online.
Thank you. We're gonna now make my way back home.
Engine powering up.
33%. Apparent. Does silent running use more energy? What is this shit? We're down to 30%. Silent running may use more. Yeah, it is a little southwest. It's annoying, but yeah. I think silent running uses more energy, so not running silent running when I don't have to is probably a good idea. Okay. And let's get over there. Oh, wow. We're up to 6 viewers total. And 3 on Twitch, so, I don't know where the others are watching from, whether that's the Kick or the YouTube side, but thank you for watching the stream. I do always appreciate every viewer I get. And yeah, thank you very much for enjoying the stream. What did I strike? I don't know yet. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna... Hey! Ah! Are you watching on 2 different things currently, Naresh? Is that where the extra one is coming from? I think usually it says either like +1, so... was accidentally opened the YouTube side when looking at others. Ah! Okay. I am in a very dangerous position with the Cyclops. Shit, I should not have done that. That's going to beach me. Okay, please. Do not beach the Cyclops. I need to remember the safe shallows is, well, not safe for the Cyclops. I need to kind of maintain my distance. To at least some degree. Alright.
Engine powering down.
Yeah. So, oddly enough, running it in silent running apparently takes a good chunk of everything. So, that's good to know. Which batteries are at 0? Perfect. So I can take 4 batteries. Right. My inventory is full. I can do that though, and I can take 2 more. Well, that's an interesting effect. Okay. But yeah. I'm gonna go exit. We're gonna... Good. I am completely good. Yeah, I think I can now make the benzene I need to make. At least I think it's benzene, whatever it's called.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
I need to produce this. I can then make my grapple. And with that, I will be pretty happy with that. What was the grapple needed? I need the benzene, wiring kit, titanium, and some lithium. Okay. What do you have? You have the lithium. Okay. I need some silver, which I don't think I'm going to possess. I love that. Power those. Power those. Good. I need 1 silver, which apparently is not in here. Oh, 2 titanium are, which I need. I need the silver, and 3 more titanium. I believe that is enough to make the thing I need. Good. Also, Naresh, is there anything you want me to react to? What am I missing? I forgot to turn that into a wiring kit. Dang it. Oh, right. The Ruby Ridge thing. That's an hour long, so that's gonna have to be a... It's gonna be a little bit. Is it an advanced wiring kit or a standard wiring kit that I needed for this? An advanced, so I need more silver, and then I need... We need 2 gold. I need some copper. I need more other pieces as well. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Okay. Let's just... Good. Alright. That'll be what I need. And then I will be able to have the components necessary. So, you, wiring kit, produce the wiring kit, produce the copper, right? Then I need the computer chip, and then I need an extra gold. Dang it, I missed 1 gold. Come on, give me a gold. Perfect. Okay. Now I need to go find the thing again. Where the are you? Deselect you. Okay. I think I'm trying to decide whether I want to explore further or whether I want to do that. Unpowered. Shit. Okay, it is sunny, so I should hopefully be getting some power soon. Yeah, these take up a lot of power, apparently. So I'll wait. Oi. Well, I might as well wait over there for these to be powered. What would be the power I would need? Let's go find it. I also want to figure out what else I'm missing and where I would need to go for that, but meh. Let's see. I'm looking for obviously I'd want the prawn suit, but that requires nickel, which is apparently in the area that I don't want to go to. So, how fun. Building pieces, building pieces, building pieces, building pieces, building pieces. Horse and copper. Oh, that's gonna suck. Indigenous. Original. The Reginald, which is a lovely name for it. Floral, C. Membrane tree, yes. Data downloads, public documents, Torgal Corp information, blueprints, power, thermal, good. Okay. Alright. Yeah, so I've explored everything. For the most part. Oh boy. Alright. You still unpowered. Really don't want to deal with moving around. You are empty, right? Yes. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to produce the other power piece, which means I gotta go find it again. I need 2 more of that, 2 quartz, and an extra copper. 2 of that, 2 quartz, and no. 1 extra copper, 2 quartz. Do I not have another quartz? Shit. Really? I don't have another quartz? Please tell me. There's gotta be at least 1 in here somewhere. Nope. Okay, let's go find myself some quartz. And then, yeah, I think I'll do the reaction thing to the video for... Because I don't remember exactly what it was. I know I've heard it. And I just can't remember exactly what I... Yeah, I can't remember what it was in reference to. I was pretty sure it was some sort of, like, shooting of some kind of thing. But my memory and or knowledge on any of the rest of anything is pretty abysmal. Ow. Yeah. We're gonna go make my way back there, and then I will make sure to adjust Twitch titles and such. And yeah. Yeah, I think what I'll do is the next stream that I can actually do a bit longer instead of like the 2 or 3 hour streams. So hopefully this coming Tuesday, I'll be able to get, Tuesday, I'll be able to get a proper stream of Subnautica going long enough to make it actually worthwhile. Though that is only going to be a hope because I have no idea how things might progress in other capacities, which is going to be an unfortunate situation. There we go. Alright. So, that should be enough. Good. More than enough power. Yes. Perfect. The grapple arm. There we go. Alright, so... Well, that's an interesting effect.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
There we go. So... I'm gonna go... run around a little bit. Alright. Let's see. That's still too far. What about you? Alright. Alright, so mostly going to be useful when needing to go distances. And I want to just see what I can get out of this. And then we'll be on our... Then we'll do the reaction, because I believe that was about an hour video. So. Let's see. Can I still pick up these? No. Okay. Okay. So with the arms... Okay. So with these arms in this configuration, I don't get to pick up stuff, but I do get to deal with the other compartment. Okay. So. Okay. Honestly, 2 grapple arms are probably going to be the best. Yeah. So we're going to make sure that this all works as desired, and then we'll do the reaction. Here this is. Salt. Not exactly something I want to drill. I would like something I would actually need. I'm pretty sure. Is this lithium? That could be useful. Lithium, yes. Alright. Alright, so how much lithium do I get out of one of these big rocks? That was seemingly 1. That was 2. Oh, another 1, so... Is it what, like 6 or 7 out of the rock? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Lithium's gonna be really important, I believe. believe it's necessary in the construction of most stuff. Come on. Finish the drill. Alright. And now we walk back home. So. Here we are. Oh, wow. This can launch you pretty darn well. I can nearly get up to 50. There we go. Above 50 meters below. Wait, is this... Uh-oh. I don't want to be down here. Alright. Alright. Let's see. Alright. So, it's not the easiest thing to get around in, but I can scale fairly decently well. I probably can't scale out of the lava zone like this, but I can probably scale out of most dangerous situations. Good. Come on. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So, what did I get in my storage? How much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11. So, yeah, about 11 per should be just fine. I'm okay with these numbers. We're gonna go back down. Good. I think I am pretty happy with this before I do the reactions. I don't think that there's anything else I can get to at the moment. I need to just explore some areas first. I would like to maybe build another base, make it like a forward observation post sort of area. A nuclear reactor fragment. That could be good to look for as well for the next stream. But I have the large room partitions and the doors for that. I have the bulkheads, which will work just fine. Base attached air pumps aren't really worth much. The large room glass dome could be pretty decent, but yeah, I do want to check one thing real quick, just because it's going to be very important. Plasteel is lithium, right? It is. Okay. And I'm going to need a lot of plasteel and enamel glass. So. Okay. I think that's going to do it for the main portion of the stream. I think we're going to probably switch on over to the reaction portion now. Because the video for me to react to is, let's see, how long is it? An hour and 17 minutes.
We all hate.
Shut up. Okay. There we go. All right. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna switch over to the reaction portion, I believe, because if I want to do the rest of the stream, I'm going to need quite a decent amount of stuff. I'll be honest. Do I not have any more waters? Where did I put the rest of the waters? Oh, there it is. Is that it? Nah, things seem to be about it. So that one's full. That one is not. Okay. And then I'm gonna go gather up the 4 I need. We'll just go deal with the marble melons. And that will be that. Because I don't want to stay up too late. Come on, please let me cut the melons. I do not like trying to pick up the marble melons. Well, picking up the marble melons isn't the issue, it's... Shit! This is not enough to fill it, is it? That is not. Do I not have a spare melon anywhere? I don't believe I have a spare melon. Dang it, I did a stupid. Oh well. Doing a stupid makes sense for me. Alright. Well, that's fine. It's time for the reaction portion, so I'm gonna go do this. Save, yes. Move over to this. There we go. Okay. Just want to do this. You. We're gonna go. Just chatting. Good. Done. That is that problem. I can look at. What are we on the? So we got 2 viewers on the kick side. Apparently. So yeah. Plus, I think your YouTube side. Okay. 1. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So I'm gonna do this. Oh right. Right. I almost forgot a lot of the other reactions that I had as this shit. Okay. Did I take these? Um how is that? That one. I don't know. Remember the last time I didn't have the YouTube set correctly yet, or the YouTube got unselected to be correct. So there was I think 5 videos that you posted that I couldn't do the 4. I forgot about those ones. So yeah, definitely good for me to do these now. So here's what we're gonna do. I am going to do this video. I am going to I'm going to do this at a 1.25x speed for this video, and then we can get to the other ones. Yeah, so this is going to be Ruby Ridge, which I don't remember much about. So,
hate government overreach. Some of us really hate government overreach. But while we've all struggled with navigating the web of bureaucracy that is the local council, there is one level of government that you do not want to cross under any circumstances. A cabal that may work behind the scenes, but is the exact opposite of shadowy. We all hate them, and they sure as hell hate you. But what happens if you decide that you don't want anything to do with the government anymore? What if you just decide that the whole social contract thing just isn't working out for you, so you decide to simply opt out of society? Well, the government will come at you with the fury of a million jealous ex-girlfriends and use things as minor as a small Venmo transfer, a spicy tweet, or a gun's barrel being just a touch too short as an excuse to absolutely destroy you. But the true danger of the alphabet agencies is their sheer incompetence. If a situation requires a scalpel, they will very happily bring a sledgehammer. If they decide that they don't like you, they are so petty, so power mad, and so mind-numbingly stupid that nothing will stop them from having their way with you. Not even innocence. Ruby Ridge.
Yeah, I don't know what this was. Oh yeah, I should probably say this is Absolute Mad Lads, Ruby Ridge, Count, Dankula, is that the channel name? Yeah, Count Dankula.
Please leave a like.
I will do this. Copy, and then put it in. Alright, there we go. So it'll be on both the Twitch and the YouTube side. There we go. Fortunately, it doesn't also do Kick, but it should be fine, I think. Yeah, I think this is fine. Alright. Here we go.
And a comment on this video because it really helps me in the algorithm.
So.
But before we get started, this video is sponsored by War Thunder.
Yeah,
Player combat, available challenge, and involves all kinds of vehicles from war. An entire family of unique ground vehicles from Hungary was added. Also, air battles have become much more immersive and atmospheric effects that change the intensity, like get into cause of fire, or eras including from the early 20s look and specification, including unique operation and movement. Vehicles can also have many more options. It has an immersive cover that is inspired by the same. Anyone start by clicking the receive some special bonus week, along with free unique skins for both of them. A special decorator, Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver. So hurry up, point out that this is a comedy video and will end soon. Before we get started, I would just like to point out that this is a comedy video and all of its contents are jokes. The US government does nothing but protect our safety and best interests. I have the utmost faith in the honesty of the government. Fully semi-automatic assault rifles with high-capacity clipazines are weapons of war and should not be in the hands of civilians. The FBI and ATF do good and important work. I am of sound mind and body. I am happy. I currently have no health issues and I have no intention to kill myself. So, with all of that out of the way, meet the Weaver family. The patriarch Randall had a very stereotypically American upbringing. He grew up in a farming community in Iowa, he played football in high school, and he spent 3 years in the army as a Green Beret. But everything changed during his military career when he met Vicky Jordison at Fort Bragg. Vicky's life up to this point was also incredibly ordinary. Like Randy, she grew up on a farm and she did well at school, and then went on to work as a secretary. And she was very adept at pretty much every homemaking skill that you could imagine. The two were practically made for each other, and as if life were your standard rom-com, Randy spent every night he was on leave with Vicky, until they married in 1971 and moved to Cedar Falls, where Randy took a job at a tractor factory after leaving the army. After a period of domestic bliss, the couple's first child, Sarah, arrived in 1976. Sammy was born a couple of years later, and Rachel came along 4 years after him. Being Americans that grew up in a more civilized time, both Randy and Vicky had regularly attended church all their lives. But while Randy was the head of the family, the de facto spiritual centre of the family was really Vicky. Vicky was very, very religious and pushed the family towards the kind of Christianity that gets a lot of airtime on this channel. For some perspective, Vicky was so religious in that Old Testament way that she kept pork out of the house, took away the TV, and took it upon herself to go and live in the shed with her daughter whenever they were on their periods. I mean, trad wives are a bit of a meme at this point, but Vicky was trad. Like, very, very trad. And Randy just kind of went along with it. After all, trading bacon and TV for a week of peace and quiet every month, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. So yeah, the Weavers were a little bit kooky, but ultimately they were rather wholesome. A nice all-American family,
as well,
right?
Guys?
Well, don't get too attached. As the 80s rolled around, Randy and Vicky found themselves getting increasingly blackpilled. The economy had taken a turn, farmers all around them were losing their land to soaring interest rates and gas prices, and the government was plunging into an absolute death spiral of corruption.
Are the volumes good? That's what I said.
Because time is a flat circle. Vicky, in particular, had always been quite the doomer, having had visions of the end of the world since 1978. But they were starting to feel increasingly prophetic. As I said before, Vicky always ran a very fundamentalist household, but she increasingly started to push the family towards becoming the great conflagration is coming levels of religious as time wore on. This mounting tension manifested in the family a desire to move to the mountains, not just to survive Judgment Day, but also to escape the sheer corruption of modern society. The main source of this corruption was the government, which the Weavers, quite rightly, believed was the embodiment of the beast that they and all other Christians would go to war against during Armageddon. This holy war would be the only project that the government has ever completed ahead of schedule. Now, I know that all of you fantasize all the time about living in a cabin in the woods, and most of you would probably be immediately eaten by bears or starved to death once the Mountain Dew and packs of ramen ran out, but Randy was a Green Beret. So he knew what he was doing and how to handle himself beyond the boundaries of civilization. The Weavers were very serious about taking the TED pill, so they prepared extensively to ensure that they could do it properly. Vicky read up on survivalist techniques and learned how to be self-sufficient by developing skills such as canning her own food. And Randy prepared by collecting the most important of supplies that the family would need, most notably, guns. Lots and lots of guns. Well, I say lots, but really it was just 14. But considering the type of Americans they were, that's still a very low amount. But none of the Weavers, even the kids, left the house unarmed. The family saw firearms just like any other tool around the house, to be used for hunting for food and protecting themselves from wild animals and members of the, and I swear to God, these are the Weavers' words, not mine, Zionist-occupied government. Eventually, the time came, and in 1983, the Weavers sold everything that they didn't need, packed up the truck, and left society behind. They shacked up together in northern Idaho, where they bought 20 acres on a mountaintop named Ruby Ridge for $5,000. For an idea of how remote this area is, the population density of the county is fewer than 7 people per square mile. They were also almost completely alone. The Weavers erected a sign at the entrance to the property that read, "Every knee shall bow to Yahshua Messiah." And before you all start making a lawyer very nervous in the comments, Yahshua is Hebrew for Jesus. The Weavers worked so hard to build a little house together, and their famous cabin was finished by March 1984. The Weaver home, which was described as a rustic log cabin, everyone's dream, consisted of a big living room with an open-plan kitchen and pantry on the main floor, and 3 bedrooms upstairs. To be perfectly honest, I cannot imagine a cosier place to live. Or die. And just an FYI for the 5 women in the audience, this is what men think about when we're not thinking about the Roman Empire. I've got the money, I've came this close so many times, but my wife won't let me. As if the cabin couldn't get even cosier, Vicky turned the homeliness up to 11 by making curtains and cushions by hand and staining the cabinet. However, due to being on a mountaintop in the middle of nowhere, the Weavers had no mains electricity or running water. So life at Ruby Ridge wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it was pretty hard work, but it was completely worth it. The family was fully participating in the power process, so just existing together as they were was enough to lead a wholesome, rewarding, and frankly, quite idyllic lifestyle. And the kids loved it too. When they weren't playing board games, picking berries and making friends, they enthusiastically helped their parents grow their own food and hunt game in between homeschooling lessons from Vicky. They took full part in the running of their little slice of paradise and shared in all of its rewards, both nutritional and spiritual, instead of having their souls starved by surrogate activities in front of a screen. Yes, I understand the irony. Randy and Vicky were such great parents that in the mid-80s, they took in a troubled teenager named Kevin Harris, because God forbid we make a fatherlessness-free video, who the Weavers treated just like any other member of the family. While Ruby Ridge is very secluded, there is still something of a local community, which is largely made up of, let's just say, like-minded individuals. After all, you don't find yourself that far out unless you're actively trying to get away. Randy and Vicky were such great parents that in the mid-80s, they took in a troubled teenager named Kevin Harris, because God forbid we make a fatherlessness-free video, who the Weavers treated just like any other member of the family. While Ruby Ridge is very secluded, there is still something of a local community, which is largely made up of, let's just say, like-minded individuals. After all, you don't find yourself that far out unless you're actively trying to get away from modern society. Randy put his sense of community spirit to good use in 1988 by getting involved in local politics, where he proved to be rather spicy. He ran for sheriff and he promised to give everyone literal get-out-of-jail-free cards and only enforce the laws that the people in the area actually wanted. Absolutely based. Of the 486 votes that were cast in the election, Randy got 102, further proving that the best thing that any elected official can do is nothing. But yeah, the Weavers' neighbours were rather interesting, especially their most notable acquaintances who lived 16 miles away in a compound near Hayden Lake, and they were called the Aryan Nations. I think you can all guess what they believed in. Despite those beliefs, the Weavers got rather friendly with their neighbours and attended a few of their events, such as picnics and the big annual extravaganza at their compound, which they called the World Aryan Congress. But despite having fraternised with the Aryan Nations, I need to stress the fact that Randy never actually joined them. Randy Weaver was never a member of the Aryan Nations. He and his family just hung out with them on social occasions. After all, when you're so far out in the sticks, beggars can't really be choosers when making friends. Randy also enjoyed a good debate, and he liked talking to people of all stripes, regardless of whether he agreed with them or not. And Randy did not agree with the Aryan Nations. He was a bit more Scott Adams about their main point of policy, referring to himself as a white separatist rather than a supremacist. Still a controversial stance, I will admit, but at least he wasn't looking to devote himself full-time to the old racism like his neighbours. After all, Ruby Ridge was so remote that a distance of 16 miles was still close enough to call the Aryan Nations neighbours. They weren't just trying to get away from minorities, they were trying to get away from everyone. Yes, Randy and Vicky could be a little bit schizo in their mindset, but at the end of the day, all they really wanted was to be left alone. But unfortunately, the side that wants to win will always beat the side that wants to be left alone. As you would expect, the feds had been investigating the Aryan Nations for ages, and it shouldn't come as a surprise that they started sniffing around the Weavers in 1989. Their surveillance kicked off after a neighbour reported that Randy had allegedly threatened to kill Ronald Reagan and the governor of Idaho, which got Randy a visit from a Secret Service agent. Randy then denounced the allegation as a smear campaign and demanded an apology from the spook that paid him a visit. But let's be real, that visit wasn't really necessary. Who hasn't threatened to kill Ronald Reagan? At the 1989 World Aryan Congress, Randy first met Kenneth Fadley, who was there to write down the licence plate numbers of everyone's cars, pretend to be a weapons dealer, and save the event's organisers an absolute mint on lighting. But that begs the question, why do the feds care so much about racists in rural Idaho? They're in rural Idaho. Who the fuck are they going to be racist to? Of course, Fadley targeted Randy and got to talking with him until he was comfortable enough to approach him with a job offer. Randy was struggling a little bit financially at the time because odd jobs weren't the easiest to come by. And Fadley used this to try and employ him as a supplier for his gun business. And by some crazy coincidence, sawed-off shotguns just so happened to be the most popular product. But sawn-off shotguns are very, very fucking illegal. So Fadley asked Randy to cut the barrels of a pair of legal shotguns down to 5 inches below the legal limit and then sell them to him. This is a trick that the police still do to this day. If they can't find anything to get you on, they will trick and manipulate you into committing a crime. And this went exactly as you would expect. Randy found himself facing federal charges by the ATF for possession and manufacture of illegal firearms on the 24th of October 1989, after selling 2 illegal sawed-off shotguns to an undercover ATF agent. This was blatant entrapment, absolute entrapment. Fadley had entrapped Randy, especially since it took some persuasion to actually convince Randy to do the job. And this is where things start to get pretty fucked up. The following June, the feds offered to drop the charges if Randy agreed to inform on the Aryan nations for them. Randy said no, made it clear that being a snitch was against his beliefs, and told the Aryan nations to keep an eye out for any incandescents within their ranks. Vicky appeared to share her husband's conviction, having written, "We cannot make deals with the enemy. If we are not free to obey the laws of Yahweh, we may as well be dead," in an open letter addressed to the Aryan nations and all our brethren of the Anglo-Saxon race. In the business, we call this foreshadowing, but after being told where they could shove their offer, the feds indicted Randy on the firearms charge on the 13th of December, 1990. The feds decided that they had to take an unorthodox approach to arresting Randy because they thought he was too dangerous to bring in properly. So, instead of treating him like a human being, they decided to do something that would be guaranteed to piss him off. Randy was out on a supply run with Vicky when they came across a pair of stranded motorists in the road. How original. The couple then stopped and approached to offer help like any good Christian would, and they were immediately jumped on by the feds, who arrested Randy and pushed Vicky face first into a snowbank. Despite having no criminal record, Randy was charged with a felony, arraigned without a lawyer, and he had to post his property as an unsecured bond to get out of jail the next day. To make matters even worse, the judge also told Randy that if he were convicted, he would have to pay back the government for his court-appointed lawyer. The judge was actually mistaken, and this wasn't the case at all. But being told this dramatically escalated the impact of the charges on Randy, because such a reimbursement would actually cost him and his family their home. Randy and Vicky sat the kids down and discussed the situation as a family. Of course, no one wanted to lose their home or see Randy in jail, but they didn't know what to do about the situation. In the end, they decided to just wait and see what happened, hoping that someone would come along and get everything sorted reasonably and apologise to Randy for his treatment thus far. According to Sarah, Randy said that if the sheriff would come up and knock on my door, I'd invite him in for coffee, and we'd sit down and have a discussion. After posting bail, Randy's hearing was scheduled for February 1991, and he failed to show up. He claimed that some clerk had actually fucked up because the summons he received had the 20th of March on it, further suggesting that he had been set up. But let's be real, Randy was never going to show up anyway. Though he wasn't so much digging in and saying, "Come and get me," as doing a little bit of civil disobedience. But clerical error or not, another arrest warrant was issued, and Randy was indicted for failing to appear at court. Unable to catch a break, the Weavers only got more obstinate as the entire family refused to leave the mountain, now convinced that Randy would face nothing but persecution if he were to give himself up. Federal marshals then spent the next few months trying to figure out how to bring Randy in, which wasn't made easy by the constant presence of the kids and the fact that the entire family were armed to the fucking teeth. After all, they lived in rural America.
So far, all this seems to be is some guy decided to run an entrapment. That entrapment then, rather than going through in the at all reasonable action of saying, "Hey, this is technically illegal, bringing you in or arresting him in any reasonable manner," they then do it in the most forceful manner possible, and then basically lie enough to get the person in a situation where it's lose everything one way or lose everything the other way. Okay, then. So far, this is, the American dream, where if you know the right people, you might be able to get things going your way. If you know the wrong people, things don't go your way. Seems about right. 1980s. Yeah, I'm not I'm not surprised this would occur, but at the same time, it's like, how fucking stupid do you have to be to provoke the highly skeptical of the government people who moved away to get away from the government, who are armed to the teeth? Like, what dumbass thought provoking the people who are armed to the teeth for no other reason than because they essentially might have, gone to a couple of events with a racist group? This seems like absolute governmental incompetence to the, ninth degree. Like, what the fuck are these people thinking?
Weapons were part of their religion. It also didn't help that the Marshals asked the Weavers' neighbours for advice on how to approach Randy, and all they got as an answer was, lol, LMAO. As the Marshals tried to come up with a game plan, ideas that were floated included dismissing the charges to get Randy to come out and put his guard down, and then immediately refile the charges and arrest him. Or looking at the cabin and saying, never mind manoeuvres, go straight at them. The Marshals also asked the ATF for some advice on how to handle the situation, and they were told, he believes that this charge by the government against him is the beginning of Armageddon. The end of the world is coming, and he is ready to make his stand in the final battle. I would urge utmost caution. The ATF, of course, just a few years later, would become experts in massacring religious people that just wanted to be left alone. But more on that later in the video. Hearing that would make anyone nervous, but the question of how to get Randy in safely was really not helped by Vicky, who was a bit too much of a base trad wife. She just couldn't stop sending threatening letters to federal agencies, saying shit like, the tyrant's blood will flow, and whether we live or whether we die, we will not bow to your evil commandments. She also wrote to US Attorney Maurice O. Ellsworth and called him a servant of the Queen of Babylon. Right-wing women moments are they're just something else. Over the next few months, the US Marshals tried to negotiate for Randy's compliance by post, but life went on more or less as normal at Ruby Ridge. The Weavers went about their daily business, and friends of the family were kind enough to regularly deliver supplies. After all, self-imposed house arrest isn't really that much of a problem when you've got a 20-acre garden. During this period, Vicky gave birth to a daughter in the shed where she spent her periods, with Randy playing midwife by helping to deliver baby Elisheba. After the new arrival, the shed was henceforth called the birthing shed. Despite life going on relatively normally, it was not without incident. In March of 1992, some plainclothes US Marshals drove up the road to the cabin, but Randy saw them off at gunpoint for trespassing. While Randy was well within his rights to do so, the Marshals weren't too pleased about this, and in the end, they decided that Randy would never go quietly. They just completely gave up on trying to come up with a peaceful resolution to take Randy in. So they decided to do it by force. The Special Operations Group set up a command.
So essentially, they provoked the religious fear of the government people for no other reason than because they could by entrapment. Okay. That seems like there's probably 100 different reasons why this is not a good idea. Provoke the religious people with the belief of the government are the enemy of the end times, and then provoke them by government overreach.
Post near the property, set up video surveillance around the place, began the stakeout, and got to work on planning an ambush. The Marshals came up with a number of potential schemes to get Randy out of hiding, with the main contender involving setting up a pair of undercover deputies nearby as new neighbours to infiltrate the family. However, the intelligence gathering stage of the operation never progressed to that point. Other ideas that were floated included using rubber bullets in an assault on the cabin and charting the 16-year-old Sarah's menstrual cycle so that they could kidnap her while she was in the birthing shed. I'm not going to lie, I think someone should check the hard drives of the guy that came up with that idea. During this stage of the planning, the media had caught on to the story and started to portray Randy as a folk hero that was sticking it to the man to protect his family. So the Marshals felt a mounting pressure to bring an end to the stalemate because it was starting to become really embarrassing for them. But after 16 months, the Marshals wouldn't be twiddling their thumbs for much longer. They were going to twiddle their trigger fingers instead. The 21st of August 1992 started just like any other day, with Vicky notably being seen out and about in this now infamous photograph that was snapped by the US Marshals. Also seen pottering around the property were Sarah, Sammy and Kevin, who were all strapped as always. But what they didn't know was that a paramilitary unit of half a dozen US Marshals were out scouting the woods on their property to plan an ambush, which came much quicker than anyone expected. You see, the family dog Striker had sensed the Marshals and started to kick up a fuss. So Randy, Kevin and Sammy went out with him to investigate, hoping that he had noticed a deer. However, what they didn't know was that they had just run into US Marshals who handled the situation like consummate professionals with perfect execution, 100% by the book. It's just a shame it was the ATF book. After Striker blew their cover, the Marshals claimed to have identified themselves right away, but all Randy heard was someone yelling, "Freeze Randy," to which Randy replied, "Fuck you," and he headed back to the cabin. The Marshals then passed the Kings...
Yep, that's... shoot that dog. I'll shoot that dog. Come over here to shoot the dog. Shoot the dog. I hear another dog. I see a dog to shoot. That poodle has a gun. Come behind me to shoot this dog. You're okay to shoot this dog. Use this gun to shoot this dog. Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. Oh god. So, I don't know why they couldn't have... What's funny is that if literally any part of this would have been cleared up, like, if they would have probably gone and went, oh, hey, we made a mistake. No, your public defense, like, because as he had said, the whole public defender needing to be paid for, if they would have basically cleared that up, he probably would have gone in more or less peacefully. Probably rather pissed, probably even more distrustful of the government, but he might have actually gone. I imagine the fear of losing the house and him possibly going to jail is probably the main reason why he probably wouldn't have gone. Like, if they would have just did maybe even that much, they might have actually gotten a peaceful solution to this instead of...
After Striker blew their cover, the Marshals claimed to have identified themselves right away, but all Randy heard was someone yelling, "Freeze Randy," to which Randy replied, "Fuck you," and he headed back to the cabin. The Marshals then passed the Kingsman exam with flying colours and all hell broke loose because you know what happens, there's a dog involved, there's cops involved, they shot the dog. Right, of course, they shot the fucking dog. Sammy then reacted with a cry of, "You shot Striker, you son of a bitch." A Marshal then pointed his rifle, and Sammy opened fire to defend himself. Hearing the firefight kicking off in the distance, Randy fired his shotgun in the air, ordered Sammy to come home, and he heard a shout of, "I'm coming, Dad," in response. As Sammy ran, Kevin provided covering fire from behind a stump, shooting and killing a marshal named William F. Deegan. How awful. But despite Kevin's attempts to cover Sammy's retreat, the 14-year-old boy was shot twice in the back, killed by a round that hit his heart. A lot of arguing has gone back and forth since that day over who shot first, with the government claiming that Sammy and Kevin started it. But from what I've told you so far and how the rest of this story plays out, you will see that there is basically no reason whatsoever to believe the government's account. Back at the cabin, Sammy's death had obviously left the Weavers absolutely grief-stricken, prompting Randy to fire his gun into the sky. Because American. Half a mile away, the Marshals could hear cries of Yahweh from Vicky, and of course the Chinese whispers that made their way back to Washington said that a federal marshal had been murdered and that armed fanatics had pinned the others down with continued fire. That night, the FBI arrived on the scene, and despite investigation literally being in their name, they had no idea what the fuck was going on. They thought that they were responding to an unprovoked attack on the US Marshals, and they responded accordingly. Over 100 goons swarmed onto the mountain in armoured personnel carriers and helicopters. They set up a perimeter of snipers and set up roadblocks around the property. The next day, the mountaintop was also flooded by TV crews and hundreds of spectators, many of whom were protesters decrying what the feds were doing. While hundreds watched the siege from the scene, millions more watched on the TV or kept up with the siege in the papers, receiving regular updates as things rapidly escalated. Randy ignored all of the feds' attempts at negotiation. Because, of course he did. He wasn't taking their shit before, so why the fuck would he now after they murdered his son?
Yeah. He was already pissed, and now you've murdered his son.
Even when the feds brought out Randy's sister to bat for them, Randy refused to take the bait. When you live in a cabin in the woods, siblings really aren't loyal, are they? The feds were so woefully misinformed about the whole situation that they had it in their heads that the Weavers were extremely dangerous from their position in what they thought was a heavily fortified cabin in a mountain stronghold with a massive arsenal. So the snipers were ordered to shoot to kill any armed adults on sight. In reality, however, the Weavers were sitting in a plywood shack with a few 22s, a shotgun, and a Ruger Mini 14 rifle. They were well armed, to be sure, but they were more equipped for hunting and personal protection rather than watering the Tree of Liberty. But when have the feds ever given a shit about that? Randy, Kevin, and Sarah went out to the birthing shed where they had moved Sammy's body. A sniper on the ironically named hostage rescue team named Lon Horiuchi spotted them. He decided that the morning party were out to shoot at a helicopter, so he aimed a kill shot at Randy's back. Luckily, however, Randy moved to open the shed door at the last second, so he was only hit in the right arm. Everyone then hauled arse back to the cabin for safety, as Vicky was standing behind the doorway holding Elishiba. And Horiuchi shot her. He claimed that he didn't see her and was actually aiming for Kevin, so he somehow managed to pull off a perfect headshot by accident. The .308 round went straight through Vicky's head before going through Kevin's left arm and lodging in his chest as he ran into the cabin. Thankfully, the baby Elishiba was unhurt. The whole, I didn't see her, I just so happened to pull off a perfect headshot after I was given specific orders to shoot every adult is the biggest steaming pile of bullshit I have ever heard a Fed say. And those guys are the kings of bullshit. But do not worry, we will arrive back at this absolutely bogus excuse later, but right now, I want to really hammer this point home.
Oh, God.
The police blew an unarmed woman's head off while she was holding a baby. And to this day, the feds still believe that they were completely justified in doing so. Well, I think we would be completely justified.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. How about that? And the day's coming. From that point onwards, Randy, his surviving daughters, and Kevin holed up inside the cabin. They blacked out the windows and refused to budge. Meanwhile, the feds started destroying outbuildings around the cabin, and they found Sammy's body the next day. They also sent out a robot to take a phone to the cabin, but it was soon sent back after Randy threatened to shoot it. The situation was so dire that Randy's refusal to be taken alive went from being a mere assumption by the feds to something that he was outright stating. And who could blame him? Everything that he and Vicky believed about the government and the end of the world was coming true before his very eyes. And he wasn't the only one. Things got a little bit spicy among the protesters, especially after they found out that Sammy had been killed. They were fucking furious. Several protesters started openly wishing for the deaths of more feds. Someone, probably kids, even attached a hand-painted sign to an ATF caravan behind the roadblock that read, "Thank you for keeping North Idaho a safe place to grow up." But one little thing that the cops were not aware of is the cops didn't know that they had killed Vicky. They heard the shot ring out, and then they heard about 30 seconds of constant screaming coming from inside the cabin. They thought that everyone was just panicking at being shot at. No, they were all screaming and crying because they just saw their mother's head get blown off right in front of them. And this got even worse when on the 24th of August, a negotiator who was still unaware that Vicky was dead unwittingly poured salt in the wound by calling out to try and appeal to her by saying, "Good morning, Mrs. Weaver. We had pancakes this morning. And what did you have for breakfast? Why don't you send the children out for some pancakes, Mrs. Weaver?" Naturally, the family saw this attempt to get the kids out as a sick fucking joke and refused to take the bait. Some of the protesters
Yeah.
were far less equipped in the restraint department, however. The next day, 5 neo-Nazi skinheads were arrested after being stopped on a back road near the cabin with a jeep full of guns and ammo. Now, that was a really fucking stupid thing to do, and that didn't help anyone at all. The optics of it were so bad that Randy's supporters over at the protest wished that the skinheads hadn't bothered to offer their support at all, saying, Randy Weaver might be a racist, but this isn't about racism, and these guys want you to think it is. Even without the skinheads being absolute muppets, the protesters knew that they were fighting an uphill battle, and not just because they were on a mountain. Look at pretty much any right-wing protest movement. No matter how peaceful they are always either shut down with extreme prejudice or allowed to continue because they're either a psyop, containment, a glowing honeypot, fuel for a media smear campaign, or all of the above. In a day and age where protests against the government have to be greenlit by the government, pretty much any kind of organisation is controlled opposition or containment in some way. Other than offering the Weavers moral support, the protesters at the foot of the mountain were achieving nothing. After several days of the FBI negotiators getting absolutely nowhere, a Special Forces soldier named Bo Gritz stepped in on the 28th of August. Gritz was a prominent right-wing figure who hosted a radio show that the Weavers listened to, and he put his facts and logic to good use when he was driven to a safe distance from the cabin in an armoured vehicle and given a bullhorn so he could talk to Randy. It didn't go too well. An hour later, Bo returned to the Fed's base, shaking his head and saying, "Boy, you guys really screwed that one up." Then he told them about the state of Randy and Kevin's injuries and Vicky's death, saying, "You damn near killed the whole family." This dressing down was particularly rough for the negotiators because they had spent almost a week specifically trying to talk to Vicky with no idea that she was dead the entire time. By the 30th of August...
Wait a second. I just realized, if they had no idea that she was dead, does that mean they never talked to the guy who fired the shot? Because if they didn't know that she was dead, like, the presumption should have been dead or injured. And if the guy fired the shot, unless it went through the door so his vision was obscured, like it went through something so vision was obscured, like, yeah. I mean, even in that case, like, I don't know. That's because, like, especially with the negotiators, you'd think that they would fucking be, everyone apprised of the situation. But I guess, when the marshals are so ill-informed that they figure that the people are just going to fucking kill them, so their only option is violence. And so they try to conduct themselves violently. This is literally like, how ill-informed can you be about the people you are working at? Like, this is literally doing everything wrong in every capacity.
Kevin was critically injured. He was having trouble breathing and coughing up blood. And he was even begging Randy and Sarah to finish him off. With Randy's surrogate son in desperate need of aid, Gritz managed to talk him into giving Kevin up so he could receive medical attention. And he also negotiated the removal of Vicky's body from the cabin, which he carried out himself with the help of a family friend. However, he couldn't quite convince Randy or his daughters to come out, though the girls did let their beloved pet parakeets go with the family friend for their own safety. Despite this promising step, feds still got fed, so the commander of the hostage rescue team told Gritz, "Bo, if you don't get them out by noon tomorrow, we're taking them out." Serve and protect my fucking arse. And with that, the 11-day standoff ended on the 31st of August. As the feds were fixing to put an end to the siege once and for all, Gritz decided to beat them to the cabin in a last-ditch effort to avoid any more bloodshed, offering Randy the services of a famous star lawyer named Jerry Spence once the dust had settled. However, Randy resisted his appeal to give up because, as they did a year and a half prior, the Weaver family voted and decided to stay put no matter what. To this, Gritz responded, "Weaver, damn you. Don't tell me that we are not going to continue when I have carried your bride out of this cabin, when we've got out Kevin Harris, who is still alive. Don't tell me you're going to quit now. After making it clear that it was now or never, Grits finally managed to get through to Randy, and despite how terrified the girls were of being shot the moment they set foot out of the cabin, Randy decided that it was finally time to leave. At long last, Grits managed to escort Randy and his daughters out of the cabin and down the mountain. And do you want to know how he managed that? An actual human being fucking talked to Randy and treated him with respect and compassion. All they had to do all along was talk him.
They actually fucking did their jobs instead of just... Like, if they would have just done anything in a manner that wasn't just violence... Like, you know, if the guy who's fearful of the government, his only interactions with the government are violence, no fucking shit he's going to be violent. This is probably the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen. Alright, we'll continue.
They didn't have to set up an ambush and instantly kill the dog, they didn't have to go in guns blazing, and they didn't have to murder his son or blow his wife's head off while she was holding their baby. All they had to do was fucking sit down and talk.
Yeah.
Oh, but Dankula, he said you'll never take me alive. Yeah, well, they all fucking say that. Until you convince them otherwise. I think it's fair to say that Grits saved all of their lives. You may wonder why Randy didn't give himself up sooner just to make sure that his daughters could get to safety, and that is a fair thing to ask. But the feds had besieged his home, shot first, and killed his wife and son in cold blood.
Well, the other bit is no matter what, like, the likelihood is that the dog found would that be, the ATF marshals or whatever it would have been? Or the marshals? So the dog found the marshals. Likelihood is that it was about at that time that the marshals probably then shot the dog, which is probably where the first shot came from, which is probably where then the fuck you, like, that's probably kind of the string of incidents. They probably were startled by the dog, trigger happy, afraid of being found out, and probably ended up shooting the dog first.
He had no reason at all to believe that the feds were going to stop there. He can't blame Randy for being convinced.
That's the way that I see it with the whole, that's, I think, the situation. I might have mixed up that timeline, actually.
That he and his family were going to get marstoned if he gave up. They had been out to get him long before those 6 marshals set foot on his property. But in the end, Randy was arrested, and his daughters went to live with their maternal grandparents back in Iowa. After 8 months in jail, Randy and Kevin's trial started on the 14th of April 1993. The pair were charged with conspiracy to commit murder, and the prosecutors pushed for the death penalty, even though Kevin acted in self-defense and Randy wasn't even part of the initial shootout that saw a marshal die. And none of the Weavers even fired a single shot at anyone after they had retreated into the cabin. But Randy and Kevin were in good hands, as Jerry Spence kept his promise and represented Randy alongside Kevin's court-appointed lawyer, David Nevin. The prosecution kept it simple and stuck to the tried-and-true method of calling their opponents racist. Been there. To them, Randy's anti-government beliefs, his politics, and his stubbornness forced the Marshal's hands, making the deaths of his wife, his son, and the Marshal Deegan Randy's fault. The prosecution also used Vicky's threatening letters as evidence that the siege was the Weavers' fault. Meanwhile, the defence opened strongly. Nevin declared his intent to save Kevin from being the fall guy for how the government handled the siege. In the opening arguments, they were quick to point out that Sammy's last words before being shot in the back were, "I'm coming, Dad," showing that he was clearly retreating and was no longer a threat to the Marshals that had killed him. To hammer that argument home, Nevin really wanted to put Kevin on the stand because the jury would be sure to see him as a good kid who didn't want to kill Deegan. And sure, Kevin's story was easily believable and may have even come across very well to the jury, but Spence advised against it because if they played that game, then the case would all come down to which side spun the best yarn rather than the facts themselves. There was also another problem with the defence presenting witnesses. Randy was such a stubborn and angry hard arse that God only knows what the fuck would have come out of his mouth if he set foot on the stand.
Yeah,
Randy was such a liability that Spence decided not to present any witnesses at all because Randy couldn't be trusted. They were thinking that he was just going to fed post throughout the entire trial. And see, to be honest, who could fucking blame him?
Yeah,
Spence also considered
her.
putting up Sarah, but he decided against it because since the prosecution's main strategy was to paint the Weavers as racist, he was worried that Sarah would be, let's just say, a bit too honest during cross-examination.
Yeah.
While Spence's decision to not present any witnesses sounds like he was kneecapping his own case, he had a solid plan. Spence's strategy involved focusing on the God-given, quintessentially American rights to freedom of religion and self-defense. So he was thrilled about the prosecution's opening argument because they hinged their case on exactly what he wanted: the beliefs of the Weavers. For example, Spence countered the argument about Vicky's spicy letters by citing the First Amendment to point out their irrelevance, asking the prosecutor, "I, as a citizen of the United States, have a right to call you the Queen of Babylon if I want to." True? Spence set out to dismantle the prosecution's case on cross-examination by using their own witnesses against them. This angle of attack was twofold. One, he and his team would shoot as many holes in the prosecution's case as possible, expose all of the misconduct and incompetence that they could find, and two, provide the jury with that crucial reasonable doubt 12 Angry Men style. And it fucking worked. For example, on the question of who shot first, one of the marshals that started the siege admitted that the first shot he heard sounded like a 223, which was used by the marshal that shot Stryker. Another prosecution witness, a family friend who was put on the stand to testify about the Weavers' unwavering fighting spirit against the government, told Spence all about how unbearably afraid Vicky was of the government taking her kids and putting them into the notoriously awful care system, and about how loving Randy and Vicky's relationship was.
Yeah. I'll be honest that, the American, kind of foster care type systems, from what I've seen, they can be good or horrible. But I don't think I've seen too many of the instances or heard of any instances where those systems worked positively. At least not amazingly.
The defence also put the FBI's rules of engagement under scrutiny, bringing up the fact that there was no ongoing firefight when the hostage rescue team showed up, and that the plans of attack were drawn up by the idiots in Washington before any of them were even briefed on the situation by those on the ground. Technically, this wasn't incorrect because federal law does supersede state law, as the hostage rescue team's commander stated during the trial. But the way he stated it just really rubbed the jury the wrong way. When Horiuchi took to the stand, he continued to claim that he didn't see Vicky behind the door before blowing her brains out. But he admitted that he knew that it was possible for someone to be standing there. Being a sniper trained specifically for hostage situations, you would think that Horiuchi would be incredibly aware of what's behind his target at all times before he fires. But, well, fed. To really rub Horiuchi's face in how badly he had fucked up, Spence asked for 30 seconds of silence so that the jury could really imagine the screaming that was heard in the half-minute of horror after he fired. Good start, but the real shitstorm came for the prosecution after the day's proceedings came to an end. The US attorney leading the prosecution, Ron Howen, had a rather interesting package waiting for him in his office. A picture that Horiuchi himself drew the day after the siege. This is what he saw the moment before he pulled the trigger. See those two semicircles at the bottom of the door window? Those are heads. Those are fucking heads. He did see Vicky. He did see Vicky behind the door, and he fucking knew it was her. Horiuchi ended up having to fly back to Idaho to explain himself to the jury, who he outright fucking lied to under oath. And the special delivery was described as the low point of Howen's career. But as humiliating as it was, at least he didn't muzzle sweep an entire jury with his finger on the trigger. Another funny thing that happened during the trial occurred on day 4. The feds torched the Branch Davidians, and the jury was told, nothing to see here, just ignore that, but as dark as it is, I imagine that this was a bit of a blessing in disguise for the defence. Because even if the defence are told that they are not allowed to say something to the jury, the common tactic is to say it anyway, and then retract it when the judge complains. So, your comment is now stricken from the court record, but the jury still heard it. And now you've got their noggins jogging. And while a judge can tell a jury not to take certain things into consideration, one can't just unthink a thought. After 36 days of listening to a load of ballistic and forensic experts and the defence building a Weaver family fan club out of the prosecution's 54 witnesses, it would have been the defence's turn to make its case on the 15th of June. But since the defence decided to skip that stage, it was now time for the closing arguments. The prosecution once again insisted that the government did everything possible to resolve things peacefully and that Randy and Kevin's stubbornness put everyone...
I mean, they didn't do everything at all possible to solve things peacefully, because they did basically everything in the most aggressive possible way. Maybe it was like a peaceful bit, but, you know, maybe they could have, I don't know, parked when they first were trying to visit and talk to Randy or whatever, you know, before he was yelling at them that they were trespassing or whatever. Maybe they might have, I don't know, walked peacefully, explained themselves, done anything. Yeah, send the sheriff to talk to them, you know, do anything of, hey, these are the local people who know these people. Let's have them try to talk them into going out of their property so we can get and, you know, actually deal with the court problem. Because, you know, you don't have to get to the point of fucking pulling triggers if you actually use the people that might know them as potential, hey, here's the situation. What can we do to not escalate things? Instead, it seems like the government went straight. How much escalation can we do as quickly as possible? How much can we not communicate to any level lower than, like, the highest level?
Everyone involved at risk and got Vicky, Sammy and Deegan killed. Victim blaming, essentially. Nevin simply reiterated that the government's account of what happened was untrue, and he decried the charges against Kevin as preposterous. Spence, however, did not keep it simple. He started off by calling the jury the most important in a decade and said that this case will be read about by law students for decades to come. Or discussed by libertarians on YouTube. He then approached Randy and said to him, Randy, I'll tell you what you're guilty of. You're guilty of being one stubborn mother. You are guilty of being afraid. Then he said to the jury, aren't we all guilty of being afraid? And then he spent the next 2.5 hours denouncing the government's attempt to sweep its own fuck-up under the rug. Yeah. He declared that the trial was in fact a murder case, but, and I quote, the people who committed the murder have not been charged, before finishing off by saying that Randy had been punished enough and appealing to the jury to end this horror once and for all. On the 8th of July 1993, after the longest period of jury deliberations in Idaho's history, Randy was acquitted of everything, except for failure to appear in court, for which he was sentenced to 18 months in prison and a $10,000 fine. The ATF's firearms charges were found to be the result of entrapment. Yeah, because they blatantly fucking were. And they were therefore thrown out because the agent had solicited the criminal activity instead of Randy taking any initiative to engage in criminal behaviour. Yeah. You all knew that already, but it's nice to take small victories in the courts where we can. The verdict also came with a number of red pills, with one juror saying that an incredible injustice has been done. The further we got along in the case, the more I thought, this is ridiculous, the wrong people are on trial. Regarding the firearms charge that started the entire mess, the jury foreman said, I don't much like Weaver, his white supremacist buddies, or their views. But it is beginning to look to me a lot like much of what has happened cannot be laid at his feet. With his sentence handed down, Randy was locked up on the 18th of October 1993. Thanks to the time that he had already served while awaiting his sentence, he was out by Christmas, leaving prison on the 17th of December. Kevin, meanwhile, got off completely scot-free for having done nothing wrong and acting in self-defence. The Weavers filed wrongful death suits to the tune of $300 million, though it ended in a settlement in 1995. The kids were awarded $1 million each, and Randy received $100,000, though a Department of Justice official said that he probably would have gotten $200 million if the case had gone to trial. Kevin also sued the government for $10 million and settled for $380,000. In the autumn of 1995, a Senate Judiciary Committee launched an investigation in which Randy and Kevin testified, and the report was actually quite scathing, saying that every agency involved with the Weaver case was careless at some level in the way it handled information. The investigation revealed that the feds had operated under the assumption that Randy was much, much more dangerous than he actually was, which was why they all but literally went scorched earth. As the FBI director, Louis Freeh, put it, one misstatement of fact exaggerated to another one into a huge pile of information that was just dead wrong. The committee concluded that the blame for everything that happened lay at the Fed's feet, saying that, and I quote, federal law enforcement professionals are held to a higher standard than ordinary American citizens, and this country can tolerate mistakes made by people like Randy Weaver, but we cannot accept serious errors made by federal law enforcement agencies that needlessly result in human tragedy. In the aftermath of the investigation, 12 feds were disciplined and 4 high-ranking officials were suspended. That was it. That was it. No one went to jail.
Well, I mean, that's probably about what you'd expect for a government. Like, the government for mismanagement won't send government officials to jail. If you severely mismanage, you might get suspended or basically removed from your position. But unless it's going to be like, oh, this government official committed a mass, murder case, like basically a mass killing because of their incompetence, like, you're not going to get any federal official likely to go to jail for something as this, because they see it as essentially mishandling of information or failing to do their job to the degree it was required. Not necessarily seeing it as a, you dumb fuck killed these 3 people, instead of your stupid decisions, your statements as fact rather than assumption resulted in all of the rest of this being a problem.
No one even got fucking fired. They all got away with it. They all pretty much completely got away with it. They got a little slap on the wrist from their boss, and that was it. They all just went back to being feds. Full pay, full pensions, the lot. None of them ever.
Yeah. That's what you'd expect for government. No government's going to send their own to prison. Unless it is to such a high degree or a charge resulting from, like, you gotta do really stupid and really bad shit to manage to get any federal government likely to send their own people to
saw the inside of a prison cell.
Also,
the deputy director of the FBI, Larry A. Potts, was demoted, but not before FBI officials flew to Washington for his going away party, and they claimed it on expenses as an official trip, for which they got nothing more than a letter in their file for inattention to detail. However, while he had been vindicated for a second time, it seemed to be a Pyrrhic victory for Randy, who testified, "If I had to do it over again, I would have come down the mountain for my court appearance." He also criticised the government for the complete lack of justice regarding Vicky's murder. The US Marshal Service not only got off completely scot-free, but the 6 marshals that blew the powder keg by killing Sammy and Stryker were actually awarded with the highest commendations. Government is a fucking joke. Despite having admitted that they royally fucked up the siege, the government didn't admit to having done anything wrong to Kevin, and they still ultimately blamed Randy for everything going south, saying that he, and I quote, must bear a great deal of the blame for the bloodshed. Oh, yeah, he missed a court date, so you tried to exterminate him and his family. Yeah, I can totally see how that tracks. There was also a Fed named E. Michael Cahill who tried to cover up everything by destroying a document that condemned the FBI's conduct during the siege. He pled guilty to obstruction of justice and was sentenced to 18 months in prison and a $4,000 fine. But they made sure to hold off on prosecuting him until he turned 50 so he could still get his retirement pension. He was the only guy that went to jail. Not the guys that literally murdered a boy and blew a woman's head off while she was holding a baby, but this guy who destroyed a document. The only one that went to prison. The only one that actually saw any kind of serious
again, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I don't see why people wouldn't understand that this is how government operates. Of course, when you make a fuck up, you're going to do what you can to not admit your fuck up.
Repercussion, but he still got his fucking pension though, didn't he? With all of the tragedy and legal proceedings behind them, the Weavers moved to northwestern Montana in 1996. The family still owns Ruby Ridge, though their little house there is now gone. All that's left is the foundations. But while their part in the story was over, there was someone else who still needed to be dragged a little bit further across the coals. The Department of Justice took issue with Horiuchi's conduct at Ruby Ridge. Orders to shoot on sight without a chance to surrender was unconstitutional. He was wrong to kill Vicky because Randy and Kevin were retreating and therefore not an active threat. And aiming for the door without knowing who was behind it put Vicky and the children at risk. Another rule of engagement that the feds violated was end of the laneway, don't come up to the property. But I digress. Horiuchi was charged with involuntary manslaughter in 1997, but the charges were dropped. Not because of any lack of evidence, but because the judge decided that feds couldn't be charged for crimes they committed in the line of duty. Couldn't be charged for crimes they committed in the line of duty. An actual thing a judge said. An absolutely fucking...
Again, this is the way that most governments operate. If the guy was told, shoot on sight, he shot on sight. Was it technically against the actual what you're supposed to do? Yep. But it was what he was told to do. And is that the dumbest fucking decision? Yes. But that's kind of how most government operates. Like, I'm not surprised by this.
Terrifying thing a judge said. Even if he really was aiming for Kevin, the fact that he accidentally blew a housewife's brains out while she was holding a baby, despite seemingly being qualified enough to be on a fucking hostage rescue team, is bad enough to at least disgracefully end his career. The Solicitor General then had the fucking gall to say that federal law enforcement agents are privileged to do what would otherwise be unlawful if done by a private citizen. Apparently, that also includes doming a woman who was holding a fucking baby.
Yeah. It's the, I think it's like qualified immunity. More or less, if while during your job you technically commit what would have been a crime in the process of doing your job because of what your job entails, you know, basically being cops shooting people in the line of duty, if it's ruled that they were following what they were actually told to be doing, essentially what this would be, technically that probably fall under the qualified immunity. It still probably was investigated, but the investigation probably went to the level of, you told him to shoot on sight. He did as he was told. Essentially, the movement of blame to somebody who already was excused prior. That's the way that I would see that as falling. Because, yeah, if like a cop ends up, you know, shooting some guy who's trying to shoot him, the cop is not going to be charged with murder if it's viewed that, oh yeah, a gun was pointed at the cop, so the cop shot him. This is considered a lawful action in policing, and therefore not something that the cop can be charged with. At least that's my understanding of it. So, is it a stupid thing that it occurs in this instance? Yeah, but I can see the logic to it.
Proving that there is no act of savage depravity that the government will not write off as a whoopsie, I'm such a Gemini, and then declare a complete lack of wrongdoing. In 2001, this ruling was overturned by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which made it possible for the book to be thrown at Horiuchi. But no one did. The prosecutor decided not to bring any charges against Horiuchi because, as he put it, it was time to move on. Imagine that. Can you fucking imagine that? Oh, this guy murdered 10 children 20 years ago? Well, it's time to move on.
Technically, that would have been 20 years ago. Would have been what? Yeah, about 20 years ago for the death, 20 years for a basically wrongful, what would have just been probably wrongful death. Or that's what it likely would have been probably filed under.
Horiuchi completely got away with it. Well, legally, at least. Someone that some of you may have heard of, a man called Timothy McVeigh, did send Horiuchi a lot of threatening letters that would have made Vicky proud. And he also handed out cards at gun shows with Horiuchi's name and address for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Due to his conviction for failing to appear at trial, Randy was no longer able to own firearms, but he was still a mainstay at local gun shows where he sold a book that he and Sarah wrote about the ordeal in 1998, and the book was titled The Federal Siege at Ruby Ridge. He and the rest of the family ultimately lived relatively normal lives, though for a long time the family's religious faith seemed to die with Vicky, as Randy completely abandoned it, having told a fan at a gun show, "Religion's all a bunch of crap." Sarah, however, became a born-again Christian in 2012, and while Randy very understandably never forgave the government for what happened at Ruby Ridge, she ultimately did. Eventually, Sarah announced in a Facebook post that Randy Weaver had passed away on the 11th of May 2022 at the age of 74. But what about the feds? Did they learn their lesson, or did Vicky and Sammy die for nothing? Well, yes and no. As I mentioned earlier, the feds took no notes from the immediate aftermath of Ruby Ridge and did a little bit of tomfoolery at a place called Waco the following year. For the two of you who don't know what that is, well, let's just say that Lon Horiuchi was also involved in that. Don't worry, it's on the list. Because of the sheer amount of lying about Waco, a lot of people started to question whether the feds' account of the Ruby Ridge story was actually true, and whether the government was actually even capable of holding its own goons accountable.
Not really.
Probably not, because we are still waiting for them to do so. And
again, the government to hold itself accountable requires enough fear of backlash of not. Essentially meaning that if you want the government to hold itself accountable, you kind of need enough people to be angry enough that if they don't hold themselves accountable, there's a chance people might do so. That's more or less where the government will probably hold itself accountable. That, or if you have enough people high enough up that care enough about holding themselves accountable. And that belief can be somehow mandated. But if there's any way to weasel around it, the government will try to weasel around it, because it don't look too good if you say, yeah, we fucked up with information and killed 2 people for no reason.
initially, it appeared to the general public that the feds hadn't actually done anything wrong, because the extent of their fuck-up didn't become clear until the investigation afterwards. As one historian put it, it was very easy to think fucking white supremacist sends his kids out to shoot at the federal government, he gets what he deserves. Until everything actually came to light. The feds then praised themselves for having brought in a bunch of dangerous racists, and the New York Times called the Weavers an armed separatist brigade. Because journalists. To this day, Ruby Ridge is still spun as a cautionary tale about the apparent prevalence of right-wing extremism, even after the media acknowledged the government's role in what went on. They are still eager to miss the point entirely and denounce Randy, with one reporter saying that his legacy was, and I quote, one of a racist. Even though he called himself a white separatist, he's also an example of government overreach.
Yep.
Journalists they just can't fucking help themselves, can they?
No. No. As long as a journalist is not mandated to tell the truth, a journalist will not tell the truth to the extent that they can lie. If they're allowed to lie, a journalist will lie. Because why tell the truth when you can lie in a manner that gets you more attention? This perfectly makes sense.
However, despite journalists running interference for the feds, their conduct at Ruby Ridge opened Pandora's asset forfeiture vault, as many, many people woke up to the fact that the government is unequivocally the enemy of the people and will freely and happily commit war crimes against its own citizens, brag about it afterwards, and then face little to zero accountability. It was abundantly clear to the entire world that the feds didn't like Randy, so they illegally set him up with bullshit charges based on a technicality to force him into becoming a pawn. And when he refused, they were so eager to spring their trap and bury him that they put his wife and son in the ground instead. And then they fucking bragged about it. But do you want to know something extremely fucking funny? I mean, it's extremely sad, but it's also extremely fucking funny. Seriously, to me, this is the most nuclear part of this entire story. All of the government's persecution of Randy began because he refused to inform on the Aryan nations for the ATF. But who were the Aryan nations really? Well, it turned out they were just like any other hate group. Full of fucking feds. I mean, seriously, they had so many feds in there. The Aryan nations had been so thoroughly infiltrated by...
It's kind of like the, It's basically kind of like how the KKK was getting paid by the Southern Poverty Law Center, I believe it was. Of course. Well, if there's a hate group, then you want people to be able to keep an eye on the hate group. The problem is that everyone seems to think that if you can't get every person in a hate group to be a snitch on the hate group, then what's the point of... Oh, another ad. Alright, I'll wait a little bit before playing it again.
Informants tied to several different federal agencies that the government was basically trying to get Randy to spy on the government. And not only that, but the informants glowed so hard that the Aryan nations actually knew all about them and even welcomed them. As their former head of security, John Bangerter, explained, "We were infiltrated. We knew it, and we always used that to our advantage. It was normal to have to deal with that. We didn't stop talking to them. We talked to them more to try and feed them as much disinformation as we could. Plus, we kept them close for the money. We always got money from them. They paid for everything. They handed out stacks of money like it was paper." Well, it was paper. But there you go, boys. Your tax dollars hard at work fighting the Nazis by funding the Nazis.
Again, I don't see how... No part of this surprised me. All of this makes sense for the government. If you take a group and you fail to make sure that everything runs as it was supposed to, things will occur like this. I am not surprised.
Let all of that marinate for a moment. I mean, undercover informants who are full members of the group will be able to give you a lot more information than a guy who just attended some barbecues with the group. But the fact of the matter here is that feds tried to exterminate a family because the father wouldn't inform on a group that was full of feds.
Yep.
If the results weren't so fucking tragic, that would be the dumbest and funniest thing I have ever heard. This happens a lot, by the way. Three-letter agencies, back in the day especially, would not coordinate their undercover operations. So some group would catch the attention of all of the agencies, who would all then separately send in their own guys to...
Yeah, well, that's the bit. Is that the government really often forgets that they need to talk to each other, and there's too many fucking agencies doing the same stupid fucking jobs. And so everybody's doing the same jobs, but nobody's telling each other that they're doing the same jobs. I don't know if that's changed since this incident, but I imagine that they have a lot of similar problems with pretty much any government agencies. There's so many doing the same fucking jobs, whether it's one that basically had an overarching job that then later gets split into smaller jobs, but still under the purview of the other first made agency. Yep. Ruby and many others 30 to 60 years ago are what we use nowadays to remind the real dumb folks the government is not a body to be trusted blindly, if at all. I mean, you still need the, you still trust the government, but you also have to realize the government doesn't always do things in a manner that makes any sense. And if you're smart about it and realize these sorts of facts, it's fairly easy to figure out a good way to go around it. Especially in this case. It's not exactly hard to realize that's entrapment. if it wasn't for the judge basically also lying, which is bullshit because obviously, then he probably would have been able to. He probably would have gone the first time, fought it in court, won the case, and nothing would have happened else. The government would have lost that chip, and voila. That would have likely been what would have happened. And yeah, most of the time the government doesn't speak to each other, then really doesn't do anything.
Worked their way up to leadership positions, not realising that most of the high table is now made up of their own colleagues. The ATF actually wanted Randy as an informant because Fadley, their guy who had originally entrapped Randy in the first place, had his own cover blown by a fucking FBI informant trying to infiltrate the same group. So the ATF informant had his cover blown by the FBI informant because they had no idea they were both trying to get into the same group. This is really common, by the way. There are full videos online of drug busts gone wrong where the dealers try to arrest the buyers and vice versa, and it turns into this giant melee of, you're under arrest, no, you're under arrest, and then all these cops are in this motel room beating the fuck out of each other, trying to arrest everyone because none of them had any idea about each other's operations, and it takes them way, way, way too long to realise that every single person in this room is a fucking cop. And these idiots, these morons, these absolute chuckle fucks are the people.
Well, that's the bit, is that there are usually two ways to get to high positions in any sort of government agency. And a good, solid one, if you're friends with the guy and you're semi-related to that field, you might be able to get in pretty easily. So, let's say you are slightly in politics and you, let's say, are vaguely informed or knowing of other politicians. You can then, before you want to run, if you want to get into politics, go to events with politicians, talk to them, maybe see what you can do sort of around the edge of politics, and then go into politics, or in any other cases, situations like this. I imagine a good chunk of higher-up people in the ATF probably just brown-nosed to their superior, and voila, you're now being promoted. Because people who are smart enough to realize that you can brown-nose your way higher up usually can get fairly far. A lot farther and a lot quicker than the people who aren't going to do that. The fact that some people don't realize this is a fact just confuses me.
People in charge of your safety. It doesn't matter what you think of Randy, his views, his lifestyle, or how he conducted himself with the feds. You could think that he was a filthy, racist, uncivilized, Bible-thumping barbarian all you want. The man was certainly as imperfect as anyone else, but no one deserves that. No one. Yeah, his obstinacy made him very difficult to deal with, but their response was atrocious. As Randy said himself, my wrongs did not cause federal agents to commit crimes. Nothing I did caused federal agents to violate the Constitution of the United States. I did not cause federal agents to violate the oath of their office. My actions did not cause federal agents to violate direct orders from Washington. My choices did not cause federal agents to violate state and federal law. My behaviour did not cause federal agents to violate their own agency policies. Federal agents have admitted to illegal acts. Even left-wing organisations couldn't deny just how seriously the feds had fucked up. Though, I'm sure that wouldn't stop the ADL from trying. Further fueling the outrage was the fact that the siege came at a time where the ATF was getting increasingly hands-on in its operations, such as knocking people's front doors down at 5 in the morning and raiding local gun shops while holding the customers at gunpoint. Preppers, doomers, militias, and boogaloo boys all across the United States suddenly saw their darkest fears come true before their eyes. Many were convinced that the government was going to strip away their Second Amendment rights and leave them impotent against the tyranny that always follows. And, as what happened to the Weavers made clear, the government was more than happy to stamp out any non-conformity by force. And Waco only made it worse because it established a pattern. If you don't toe the uniparty line, then at any moment, the spooks will come in and fucking murder you and your family. As one historian put it, and I quote, there was a perception that this style of violent policing had been unleashed, and particularly for people who had been involved in the gun rights movement, was being targeted particularly at people like them. Waco and Ruby Ridge became pretty much symbols of what could happen to anybody. As you would expect, this outrage fueled the mainstream media's fear of the spooky far right for years to come, with the Southern Poverty Law Centre calling Ruby Ridge the beginning of the modern militia movement. Oh, those spooky right-wingers living way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the same group that was paying the KKK informants to basically keep them looking scary. Because what are you going to do if the thing you're fear-mongering against is very plain to see? No, it's not happening.
Minding their own business and growing vegetables. Woo! However, this momentum and membership would be all but snuffed out very quickly because Ruby Ridge and Waco also motivated the Oklahoma City bombing in April of 1995. Because it turns out that feds just massacring everyone who stands against them isn't conducive to making people not hate them. In response to the Oklahoma City bombing, Sarah Weaver reacted with horror, saying, and I quote, "It killed me inside. I knew what it was like to lose a family member in violence. I wouldn't wish that on anyone." Randy, however, clearly had no forgiveness for what had happened to him because when he was asked how he felt about Timothy McVeigh's execution, he said there should be a bunch of federal agents lying right beside him on the gurney. He also said that McVeigh was going to be judge, jury and executioner, no different from the federal government. One has a badge and one don't. That said, however, Randy did not condone the bombing that was done in his name, saying that he would have told McVeigh to forget it if he had told him about his plans. Regarding McVeigh's execution, the Washington Post reported that, and I quote, "Randy Weaver says that the real enemy will remain at large. The real enemy will continue to violate the Constitution and eavesdrop on your house from a mile away with that super ear thing." And he wasn't really wrong. But as the dust settled on that shit show, the feds did start to calm down a little bit. But just to avoid public backlash, because the bombing gave Ruby Ridge and Waco a second wind in the media, as well as a surge of public sympathy.
Well, again, that's the bit. The government will step as far as they can until they feel like they can't step any further, lest risk significant public backlash. And, stepping too far to then cause somebody to decide to do a bombing tends to be enough backlash that they realize we might have gone too far and we might be pushing these people a little too far. They might then try to push these people in other ways, might try to do similar events in other ways, but, people with a certain belief are going to do what they're going to do. And unless you know how that's going to end, you're going to do the same mistakes everyone else does. That's the fun part of this. Yeah. People in the government are going to push for what they think is the right option. So if you've got somebody who thinks you're an evil piece of shit, they're going to do everything to make you into the evil piece of shit that they think you are, to justify their anger and thought of you as an evil piece of shit.
Sympathy. Additionally, the feds didn't want to make any more martyrs like they did with the Weaver family. So they didn't want to stop people from dying, they just wanted to stop people dying loudly. A new policy of just waiting out difficult characters for as long as it takes was implemented and used to great effect in 1996. A militia group called the Montana Freemen had their ranch foreclosed on and the feds came to evict them, initiating a standoff that lasted for 81 days, which was 29 days longer than Waco and 70 days longer than Ruby Ridge. But despite the protracted arrest attempt, no one got hurt at all. It helped that other militia groups had some pretty spicy ideas about what would happen should any of the Montana Freemen come to harm, but hey, at least the feds learned something. However, I can't be particularly optimistic. I don't really see this as the feds deciding to be more humane, because nowadays they're just simply employing different means to destroy anyone that they don't like. After all, look at the recent wave of frozen bank accounts, coordinated media smear jobs, deplatforming, imprisonment for shaking fences and then calmly walking into a building, talking about other people walking into a building, asking the wrong questions, or just good old-fashioned suicides. If you don't toe the party line, it doesn't matter how far you run, how far...
Well, yeah, again. You can deviate from things as long as you are high enough. But if you're not high enough, deviating can be quite the problem if you do it in the wrong way and aren't as careful as you probably should be about it. If you don't know that, then you really ought not to say anything. Because those who don't know how to say things without getting themselves killed really should not be saying things at all. Because there's can be some real big problems.
Off the grid you get, or how much you detach yourself from civilization, the feds are as petty as they are powerful, and they will stop at nothing to fucking get you. Now, a bunch of people are probably going to do the usual bullshit of there goes Dankula again defending the rights of racists, because they're absolute fucking morons that have completely missed the point of this video. Which was that if the government can come after you so hard to the point where they can literally blow the head off of a woman holding a baby and face fucking zero criminal repercussions, and there is no way to hold them to account just because they didn't like your beliefs or because you didn't want to do something.
The best way to hold the government to account is to make sure that the people who are capable of holding the government to account are people with strong incentives to hold the government to account. I.e., if people in three-letter agencies can be completely let go with no protections and without any, because I imagine there is probably a chance that part of the reason why some people only got the punishment that they did could be entirely due to frickin' government unions or something of that nature, I can imagine. Because fucking give a group of people enough reason to stand together, and if any of themselves do something stupid, they can still just ignore it.
For them. I don't know. I just see that as a pretty fucking serious problem. Don't go anywhere. You sit right there. I've got live shows coming up in London this December, and you can buy tickets to them down below and come to see me. I've got a small show at Comedy Unleashed, and then I've got 2 big shows later in the week. You can come to my shows if you buy tickets, and the link's down below. For the 4 women who watch this channel, you can buy them as an early Christmas present for your man friend or boy toy or whatever the hell you've got. I don't know what.
And that's basically the end of the video. Yeah. Again, I'm not surprised by any of this. If you know what you look for, you can usually, realize, yeah, that seems about right. This is interesting, J.R.R. Tolkien. This might be interesting to listen to later. I'd do that tomorrow during work. Yeah. Did you want me to do the other reactions, or because it is getting a little late for me, so I think if you throw those links back in the chat, maybe then I can pull them up for next stream. Yeah, because I believe the only one that we were able to do was, I think, the dormitory animations. I don't know, was this? Right, yeah, that was that, and then this one was the 1-minute one. Yeah. I believe we did get this one, I think. I can't remember if this one was, if we already watched this one. I know we already watched the longer one with the outfit animations, but I don't remember if the rest was done. Yeah, because that's the one with the voices. But, yeah. Yeah. I'm not at all surprised. Government's gonna do what they're gonna do. Okay. So I'll just pull these up and then we'll watch them next time. So
主人离开
that's that version of that. Good. There. Good. And then I can make sure to check these out. I believe this is the fourth one. Yep. Yep. All right. And then yeah, we'll do these later. So we'll just pull these here for next time.
I met a preacher man.
Shut up. I don't want that to play right now because if that plays, I'm likely to get at least that segment having to have song removed, and I hate dealing with that. All right. All right. So with that, I think I'm gonna call that there because, yeah, I think I'm gonna call that for the stream. I don't know if you want me to rate anyone in particular. Let's see who's good to currently. If only that's currently. All right. Not too many people I'm currently following, currently live. Let's see. Who might be an interesting one? All right, let's see. Okay. Ah, all right. We'll raid him. All right. And with that, I'd like to say thank you all for coming out and watching. I've been Captain Tundruxus, signing off.
第11护法化营第3